Verse 17, but he, beckoning unto them with the hand to hold their peace, declared unto them how the Lord had brought him out of the prison, and he said, Go show these things unto James and to the brethren. And he departed and went into another place. In other words, he left town. Now, here's the case. God has miraculously delivered him. God could have miraculously kept him. And I know today that there's some saints that would say, well, I'll just stick around. God's delivered me out of prison. He can keep me. Yes, but he expects his friends to use a great deal of common sense. And I find that there are some folk today, it's not faith they have, they're actually tempting God. Now, if God has done something wonderful for you, he expects you to use a great deal of common sense. And he expects you and me both to use common sense. Now, will you notice what happened? Verse 18 of chapter 12 of Acts. Now as soon as it was day, there was no small stir among the soldiers what was become of Peter. I'd like to call your attention to a phrase that Dr. Luke uses many times, and we'll find it again when we get to the 15th chapter. He uses what would be called a diminutive. He says, there was no small stir. What does he mean? He said there was a big stir, by the way. And then when you get over to the 15th chapter of Acts, you find that the early church, when Judaism came in, Dr. Luke again says here in Acts 15:2, they had no small dissension. Well, what in the world does he mean? He means they had a regular knockdown and drag out. They had a Donnybrook. I tell you, friends, it was really a fight that they had. But he uses that very gracious and gentle manner. Have you ever noticed? All the way through, you'll find that's one of Dr. Luke's methods. And so we find here that when the soldiers found out what had happened, here's Simon Peter gone. And look at, they had half the army there to protect and see that nobody took him away. And there was no small stir, Dr. Luke says, among the soldiers. I'll say there was no small stir. It was a big stir. What was become of Peter? And they began to make, I think, a house-to-house search. Now, verse 19. And when Herod had sought for him and found him not, he examined the keepers and commanded that they should be put to death. Now, I want you to notice this man. He's cold-blooded. And he's hard-hearted. That's a Herod. He had no regard for human life, and even these soldiers that were guarding him, without giving them a chance at all for explanation, he has them executed, that they should be put to death. And he went down from Judea to Caesarea, and there abode. Now, Caesarea is a resort area. It's down on the Mediterranean. Pilate enjoyed it down there. Many of the Roman rulers stayed down there. Actually, it was the Roman headquarters. Pilate did not like Jerusalem. He sure wouldn't have agreed with David. And there were others of these Romans, and they stayed down there. So Herod just beats it down to Caesarea to have a little vacation and has these men put to death. How brutal.